evening, everyone. This is Kilo Oscar 4, Uniform Oscar Romeo, calling the Metro Richmond ARES net for Thursday, February 13th. Your net control station this evening is KO4UOR, and my name is Scott. If at any time during this net you should need to relay emergency traffic, please use the word break, and the net will yield for your traffic and assist in any way we can. Metro Richmond ARES is part of the ARRL and the Virginia Section ARES program. This net meets weekly on Thursdays at 1900 hours on this, the 145430 repeater. The purpose of this net is for training and announcements for the amateur radio community, with an emphasis on emergency communication. We ask that all participating stations follow standard net procedures that would be used during an active emergency net. There is no requirement to be an ARES member. All amateurs who are within range of this repeater, regardless of location or affiliation, with proper license class, are invited and encouraged to participate in this net. This is Kilo Oscar 4, Uniform Oscar Romeo, calling the Metro Richmond ARES net. Before we get started, some general housekeeping. This is a directed net, which means stations must be acknowledged by the net control operator before proceeding with comments or discussion. One feature of this net is the discussion of the day. The discussion of the day is intended to be a way to learn more about amateur radio, emergency preparedness, and general safety. So we hope everyone will participate. This week, the top is the topic this week is 146520. Where and when did you? I should have proofread what I wrote. Where and when do you monitor 146520? I monitor 146520 on all of my radios and all of the time. And if I can come back to a station, I will. I think it's really important to let no call go unanswered if you can help it. And the other half of the topic is, when is the last time you threw your call out on 14652? And for me, the last time would probably be my most recent trip to and from Shenandoah National Park. When I'm on a longer trip like that, I'll often call out on 14652 to see if there are any fellow travelers that may be interested in a QSO. So I'm going to do something a little different tonight. After we've taken check-ins and heard comments, please stick around, because once we get to the bottom of the list, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to ask everyone to move over to 146520, and I will call the roll, so to speak. I'll call each station in turn to see if they can hear me and I can hear them. And I'd like you to listen while all of those other stations are being called to see if you are able to hear them. And if you have an idea of where they are, you'll have kind of a picture of what your range is around you. So this is kind of an experiment, but I think it'll be fun, and I think it'll be informative. So if you don't already have it in your radio, you might want to go ahead and program in simplex 146520. Okay, I will be taking check-ins in two groups, mobile and portable stations, and then all other stations. When checking in, I only need your call sign phonetically and your first name. I will get your location and a received signal report when I call back for comments. If you are an ARES, Skywarn, or MCOM official, please identify yourself as such. And if you have any announcements, please let me know when you're checking in. Let's get started with check-ins. Are there any mobile or portable stations wishing to check in? I need your call sign and your first name. Please call now.
This is Kilo Oscar 4, Romeo Mike Victor, PJ.
Kilo Delta 6, Foxtrot Mike, Romeo Oscar November, Ron.
This is Kilo Oscar 4, Charlie Papa Echo, John.
This is Kilo Quebec 4, Papa Juliet Alpha, Kenny.
All right. Net Control acknowledges Kilo Oscar 4, Romeo Mike Victor PJ, Kilo Delta 6, Foxtrot Mike Ron, Kilo Oscar 4, Charlie Papa Echo John, Kilo Quebec 4, Papa Juliet Alpha Kenny. Are there additional mobile or portable stations wishing to check in? If so, please call now.
This is Kilo Quebec 4, Romeo Alpha Mike, Will.
Net Control acknowledges Kilo Quebec 4, Romeo Alpha Mike, and I believe that was Will. All right. So the topic this evening is 146520, the 2-meter calling frequency. I'm interested to know where and when you monitor 14652. And as I said, I'm always monitoring that frequency, along with 446000, the 70 centimeter calling frequency. And on my tri-band radio, I also monitor the 220 megahertz calling frequency. So, and the other half of the topic is, when is the last time you threw your call out on 14652? So let's go to the top of our list, KO4RMV. PJ, please share your comments with the net.
Hey, Scott, and everybody on the net. Appreciate you running it. Doing a great job as net controller, as always. I also want to mention I think you mention if you're a Skywarn representative. I'm a Skywarn net controller. Again, don't think I've ever heard you say that before, but anyway, nonetheless, last time I called out on 4652 was about 3 weeks ago when I was out in Shenandoah, Massanutten, and guess who came back to me? KO4UOR came back to me when I was out of town, and if you can believe it, he didn't even know who I was, and I've talked to that gentleman probably 30 times over the last year. And I kind of monitor that all the time on the B-band of every radio that I have. And at that point, I'll send it back over to you, Net Control. This is Kilo Oscar 4, Romeo Mike Victor.
Wow. Yeah, I continue to get beat up for that. Yeah. You were just out of context. I think you said you were at Massanutten or some other ski resort. And, yeah, I think you answered my call, 14652, calling CQ Parks on the Air. And then I heard you in a QSO a week or so later relating the story to someone and expressing your concern of my mental health, that I didn't even recognize who you were. And 30 QSOs, boy, maybe so. And maybe I do need to get checked out. Anyway, that sounds great. I'm glad you monitor 14652, and I know you come back to those stations at least some of the time. And thank you for chasing that park. All right. Next, let's go to KD6FFM, Ron. Good evening, Ron. Please share your comments with the net.
This is Kilo Delta 6, Foxtrot, Mike, Romeo Oscar November. I'm in Western Henrico. I have your long hair. I'll probably be banned from the net, but I didn't know that frequency existed. And it is on my handheld, but I don't know if I can get through, but I'll give it a try tonight. What is that frequency used for? Believe it or not, I don't even know. Over.
Yeah, very good. And no, you can't get thrown out of this net, Ron. 14652 is the national calling frequency for 2 meters. So if you are looking for a simplex QSO, you should call out on 14652 because a lot of hams do monitor it. However, you will find that sometimes I'll have QSOs with stations on Interstate 64 or 95 from my home QTH, and I'll ask them how often does somebody come back to them when they throw their call out. And most of them say rarely, hardly ever. But I think if we can get more folks putting their call out there and being willing to answer those calls, we could make it much more active. And another way that frequency is used quite a bit is for summits on the air, and sometimes parks on the air, but more frequently for summits on the air, because these stations are hiking to a mountaintop. So they'll usually have an HT or some low-power portable radio, and they need to make 4 or more contacts to activate that summit. Anyway, this is KO4UOR, net control for tonight's Metro Richmond ARES net. Next on the list is John, KO4CPE. Good evening, John. Please share your comments with the net.
Good evening, Scott. Locating Glen Allen. The signal is loud and clear here. When I am monitoring the radios, I do use the scanner function. So I do scan up, and I would say rarely have I had any QSOs answered anyone on the frequency, but I have had occasion where that took place. for CP. Back to you, Scott.
Okay, thank you very much, John. And I should back up and say that, let's see. Yeah, PJ's and Ron's signals were both good. I think PJ's was stronger. I'll try to pay more attention as we go along. John, you had a moderate amount of noise on your signal, but 100% readable. Audio maybe a little bit lower than the other two stations. All right, next on our list is KQ4PJA. Kenny. Good evening, Kenny. Please share your comments with the net.
Good evening, Scott, and everyone on the net. This is KQ4PJA. And I would say I monitor the calling frequency generally when I travel outside of town. I live in Chesterfield. Actually, my current location is mobile in Powhatan. But I live in Chesterfield, and so generally when I get outside Chesterfield, if I'm going to Roanoke or maybe down south, I will monitor it in my mobile. And then if I get north of the James River, going out towards Charlottesville area, west on the shore, I will monitor it as well. And then I think the last time I called out was probably about a month or so ago. I was headed out towards West Virginia on 64, so I called out a couple times, but didn't get a response, but that's okay. With that, I'll turn it back to net control. This is KQ4PJA.
Okay, Kenny, that sounds good. That sounds good. Yeah, if you're traveling and you connect with a station that's headed in the same direction as you are, you can have a nice long rag queue if you want to. And I should back up and say 14652 is the national calling frequency. And once you make contact with someone, if it's going to be more than a brief exchange, you should discuss changing frequency to some other simplex frequency, or even if the quality of your transmissions are not that great, choose a repeater that you can both hit. But yeah, in general, you want to keep that frequency free for other stations, and the best Summits on the Air operators will not tie it up for long. And a lot of times there are other operators on that peak or nearby peaks that need the same frequency. You'll also hear them on 146580. But yeah, on the flip side, if you make a contact with a station heading west on 64 when you're heading east, don't expect to be in a QSO longer than a minute or two, because you're moving quickly past one another. Anyway, thank you for your comments, Kenny. Next, let's go to Will, KQ4RAM. Please share your comments with the net.
Good evening, Scott. This is KQ4RAM, Will in Eastern Hanover County. I do not call out on National Simplex as often as I should, and I appreciate you bringing this subject up as a good reminder for all of us. Like the other station talked about, I will call out when I'm on the road or out of town. And I haven't traveled recently, but if I'm in Northern Virginia, sometimes I'll call out. Rarely get a response, if ever. And I would say one of the last time I actually had a QSO on National Simplex was probably with you, Scott, because you have such a good signal from your location. I can hear you very well from here in Hanover County on my J-pole. And the interesting thing is, I think you were speaking to a station in Lenexa, Virginia. I could hear you, but I could not hear the Lenexa, Virginia station. So I guess it's all about positioning and height and all that good stuff. But anyway, I appreciate you bringing up this subject. And as far as for monitoring. It is in my normal scan rotation on 2 different radios. And then on my tri-band handheld, I also scan the 220 and 440 simplex frequencies. So those are my comments for the net. Back to net control. This is KQ4 REM.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for those comments, Will. And I have to tell a story. I had a very memorable connection on the 70 centimeter calling frequency, 446000. I was monitoring here at home, and one morning I heard a station who said, who I connected with, he said he was about 15 miles south of Washington, D.C. And I was all excited because I said, wow, I had no idea that the 70 centimeters signal could travel that kind of distance. And anyway, we had a QSO for a minute or so, and then I signed with him. Oh, I forgot to say the most important part at the beginning. He told me he was mobile. He told me he was mobile 15 miles south of D.C. So anyway, I heard him in another QSO just a few minutes later with a station, and with that station, he gave his location as being somewhere near Gordonsville, Virginia. Gordonsville is, well, Zion's Crossroads, that area. And that's when he made the statement that he was at 34,000 feet. Oh, and another important thing was he was running 5 watts, and I think I was running 15. So anyway, my one and only airline pilot QSO, and that was a lot of fun. But I didn't catch the fact that he didn't just say mobile; he said aeronautical mobile. So those are fun. All right, KO4UOR. Net control for the Metro Richmond ARES net. I'm trying to make sure I don't get confused with other nets I call sometimes. It is time to open it up for general check-ins. Any station wishing to check into the net, please call now with your call sign phonetically and your first name.
Here is November 3, Mike, Juliet, Charlie. The name is Mike.
This is
Kilo Oscar 4, Victor Echo Mike, David.
This is Kilo Oscar 4, Kilo Alpha Delta, Randy.
This is Kilo 4, Romeo Alpha Alpha. The name's Dean.
This is Kilo 4, Oscar Whiskey Uniform, Mike.
This is November 2, Juliet Delta Hotel, Andre.
All right. Net control acknowledges November 3, Mike, Juliet, Charlie, Mike. Kilo Oscar 4, Kilo Alpha Delta, Randy. Kilo Oscar 4, Victor Echo Mike, David. Kilo 4, Romeo Alpha Alpha, Dean, Kilo 4, Oscar Whiskey Uniform, Mike. November 2, Juliet Delta Hotel, Andre. And let's see, just to fill you in case you weren't around at the beginning, the topic of the evening is 14652, the 2-meter calling frequency. Where and when do you monitor 14652? And when is the last time you threw your call out on 14652? All right. Before I ask for additional check-ins, I've got another story. This is on 14652. Oftentimes in the summer, right into the fall, the propagation will be enhanced on 2 meters. Often in the morning around 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. And you can get some pretty amazing contacts. I recommend you monitor or check out from time to time an app or a website like, let's see, VHFDXView.org, I believe is the one I monitor. I'll check it. VHFDXView.org. Yeah, I'll check that in a moment. But it's a map. You can zoom in on our part of the country or zoom out if there's enhancement up and down the coast. But many of you may have met or had QSOs with Tim, Kilo Golf 4 Hotel Oscar Tango, KG4HOT. He lives over in Schuyler, Virginia, just south of Charlottesville. And on one of these mornings where the propagation was very good, I was calling CQDX on 14652. Well, Tim came back to me and told me about a QSO he had with a Canadian station in Nova Scotia. And he gave me the frequency, and I called out on that frequency, and it turned out not to be a simplex contact, but I did connect with a Canadian ham in Nova Scotia through a local repeater. So I was simplex from my radio to Nova Scotia to their repeater, and then connected with that ham. So that's the longest distance contact I've had by simplex. But anyway. All right. Before we go through our list, are there additional stations wishing to check in? If so, please call now with your call sign phonetically and your first name.
Norway 4, Italy, Charlie, Tango. Bob in Glen Allen, Virginia.
All right, Bob, I heard that you are in Glen Allen. You were pretty scratchy, and I did not get your call sign. Please give me your call sign 2 or 3 times slowly and phonetically.
Norway 4, Italy, Charlie, Tango. Norway 4, Italy, Charlie, Tango. I'll just be in and out, and thank you for picking me up. Over.
Roger, good copy that time. November 4, Italy, Charlie, Tango. Bob in Glen Allen. Bob said he's going to be in and out this evening. There was a moderate amount of noise on your signal, even on the second transmission, but your audio was much better. Thank you for checking in. All right, and for those that didn't hear this at the top of the hour, my intention is to let everybody make comments, and then for those that are willing to stick around, I'm going to go back through the list of check-ins just very briefly calling out on 146520 station by station. So for instance, at the top of our list is KO4RMV. I'll call out, KO4RMV, this is KO4UOR, how copy. And if he hears me, we'll have a short exchange of signals, and then we'll go on to the next. And at the end of that, I'd love to call for rechecks of anyone that wants to relate what they were able to hear and whether they were surprised that they could hear as many stations as they could or disappointed that they couldn't hear more. Anyway, let's go to Mike, N3 MJC. Good evening, Mike. Please share your comments with the net.
KO4UOR, net control for the Metro Richmond ARES net. This is November 3, Mike, Juliet, Charlie. The name is Mike, QDH, Borough of Hanover, Borough of Mechanicsville, County of Hanover, Commonwealth of Virginia, DFQ into the repeater. I must embarrassingly admit, I never really monitor 5.2, and I think the last time I talked with somebody on 5.2 might have been back in 1995, back in my home in New Jersey. And unfortunately, you're going to have to cross me off the list tonight because I know I have the frequency programmed into my radio here, but God, if I can remember where it is. And, I know it's somewhere in here, but I was looking for the list while you were talking to the portables, and I can't find it. I may have erased my list of repeaters, so I'm very, very sorry. I know that's not good ham practice, but what can I say? Otherwise, it's good to be back in town. I was supposed to be getting my third guide dog, but due to a misunderstanding between the guide dog school in Palmetto, Florida, and me, I was sent packing last Wednesday. And last Thursday, I was at Antonio's, playing and singing my way into everybody's heart. And go Birds. That was a great game. So anyhow, I wish everybody the best on 5.2 tonight. Again, I'm sorry, Scott. As I said, I don't know where I have it in my radio, and there's really nobody around here that can, help me figure it out. So, anyway, KO4UOR. This is November 3, Mike, Juliet, Charlie. Thank you very much. Have a good night. 73.
Okay, Mike, great signal. Thank you for checking in. Sorry you didn't get to meet your new guide dog just yet. Hope that happens soon. And sounds great. Singing and playing into everyone's hearts at Antonio's. Sounds like fun. A good time was had by all. Next on our list is KO4KAD. Good evening, Randy. Please share your comments with the net.
KO4UOR, KO4KAD. This is Randy out here in Western Henrico, and I'm reading you loud and clear, Scott. Like a bunch of other stations, the last QSO I had on 5.2 was with you, and I believe you were at Shenandoah National Park, I think, and I was up in Northern Virginia and had my mobile scanning. I was on the way to do a BOTA activation. I don't get on 5.2 as much as I should. I do have it in, in all my radios, and it's in the rotation for scanning. But honestly, I haven't been on there in quite a while. And like other people have said, I do use it quite a bit when I'm traveling to, see maybe if I can catch somebody, but it's usually pretty quiet except for when there's soda activators on the weekends. And, once in a while I'll use it as well for POTA to try to get somebody to spot me. We'll call out on 5-2 and somebody will pick me up, and I take that as a POTA contact as well, but then I'll get them to spot me. So that's all I've got for tonight. Hope you got your power back. I'm assuming you did, since you sound like you're on your base station. Anyways, that's all I've got. 7-3 from KO4KAD.
Okay. Thanks for your comments, Randy. Got my power back today around 3. So we were without power for about 23 hours. We were using a generator and lots of extension cords, and we were able to run everything we needed to. And fortunately, our heat is gas, and we have gas logs that we were able to use to heat the house. And our water heater is also gas-fired, so we had hot water. All right, let's see. There was something you said. Oh, I was just going to comment. I think for a lot of us, it's easy to get out of the habit of checking 14652, either monitoring it or throwing your call out. In fact, there are probably a lot of us that monitor it, maybe just because we put it in our radio when it was new. But we may or may not answer a call because it won't be as clear, usually, as a repeater contact. But, I think the only way for us to not become complacent is to remember to toss your call out from time to time. And if you hear somebody call out, try to come back to them, because it'll be a good surprise for them as well. I will say, though, that I have talked to a few travelers who said that coming through Richmond, they often do get stations to return their call on 14652. So all we can do is be aware and toss your call out there. Just see what big bass you may catch. Next on our list is KO4VEM. David. Good evening, David. Please share your comments with the net.
Well, good evening, Scott, and everyone on the net. This is KO4VEM. This is a great topic and a great discussion. I'm really enjoying this tonight. I usually have 14652 scanning on my radio here at home. Usually don't hear much. I'm here in King William County. There's not a lot of radio traffic that's close by that I could pick up. I also monitor it when I'm in my mobile, but usually, again, there's not much on there. The last time I got on was, maybe about 2-3 months ago. I was up in Fredericksburg, and I called out on 14652 and actually made 2 or 3 contacts. People answered me. We had a few short conversations, and it worked out real well. But you've raised the issue here tonight, Scott. This is awesome. I think I'll start monitoring it and calling out on it more often, and just to get more involved. Something I hadn't thought about. Anyway, that's about it. Oh, Scott, the website that you said, vhfdxu.org, I just checked it, and that is correct. Not sure what I was looking at yet, but it did come up, and it looked like it was what you were referring to. So anyway, that's about all I have for tonight, Scott. Thanks for doing the net. You're doing a great job. This is KO4VEM, back to net control.
All right. Thank you very much for those comments, David, and congratulations on your success in Northern Virginia, getting a few stations to come back. Yeah, and right now I am on that website. It is vhf.dxview.org. vhf.dxview.org. And it's showing a red cloud of enhanced propagation, pretty much starting from Richmond and going south all the way through Georgia and into Alabama. So if you were to call out with good elevation, you might be able to reach one of those stations. And it's a lot of fun when somebody comes back to you from several states away. Okay, next let's go to Dean, K4RAA. Good evening, Dean. Please share your comments with the net.
This is K4RAA. Good evening, Net, and good evening, Scott. Thanks for running this. As far as where and when I monitor, I usually leave 520 or 652 on as the backup channel at home. I don't leave the radio on at all times, but when I'm in the room and I have it on, it's at least monitoring on the alternate channel. If I'm traveling, I usually have it. Even if I'm going to and from work, I usually have it as the backup channel. And then, but once I'm stationary at work, or once I'm stationary when I'm out and about, whether it's work or convention or whatever, I usually monitor other repeaters in the area. And then regarding when was the last time I threw out my call out on 5.2, I got to say I can't remember when. It's been a long time. Probably a year. Well, almost a year. I've only had my ticket about a year, so it might have been one of my first early calls. So, but that's all I've got for that. I'm looking forward to the experiment that you're conducting. And 73 to everybody. This is K4RAA. Back to net.
All right, Dean, thank you very much. Appreciate you sharing your comments. You are coming in loud and clear. David did, and Randy did, and Mike did, and yeah, I apologize for not providing signal reports back to you. Next on our list is KK4OWU. Good evening, Mike. Please share your comments with the net.
This is KK4OWU. Thank you for doing the net tonight. Everybody's sounding good. I've got the 146.52 programmed into all my mobile and handheld radios. Normally, when I'm scanning during the day, I'm on a handheld in the family room, which I can't reach out with. But one thing which hadn't been mentioned, on the first and third Fridays of each month, there's a simplex net at 146.49, 7 o'clock on the first Friday and 9 o'clock on the third Friday, if I remember right. And thank you for hosting that. Very interesting, very informative. Let me grab a nickel. And it has really, made me aware that I need to monitor these and participate more. And I just got in my new Yaesu FTM 300, which I'm broadcasting on tonight, and seems to be working very well. I was able to program it straight over from a prior program for my handheld, and everybody join us Saturdays at 8 o'clock for the Fusion Net on the RAS repeater, Virginia room. Thank you, Scott, for doing everything that you do. 73s, everybody. KK4OWU.
Okay, Mike, thank you very much for those comments, and thank you especially for the public service announcement about the RVA simplex net, and you did have the information exactly correct. Yeah, and congratulations on that new radio, and we really enjoyed being able to include you on the C4FM Virginia Room Net on Saturday. Night and day difference. Next, let's go to Andre, N2 JDH. Good evening, Andre. Please share your comments with the net.
KO4 UOR, Scott, and the group. This is N2 JDH, Andre. Lakeside, his signal is booming through. I was actually looking at the audio scope of my 9700, and it looks awesome. As for Simplex, I was on Simplex, I want to say, sometime in January. I was coming up the highway, and someone threw out their call, and I responded. And in fact, I think it was like 3 or 4 of us that ended up talking as we were going up the highway. And it was actually fun for the simple fact that it wasn't a repeater. It was just radio to radio. And the fact that I can hear everyone clear was just an awesome thing. I've actually used Simplex before that. I want to say about 2 years ago when I was over the road truck driving somewhere in, I think it was Illinois or Kentucky, and I threw my call out. And someone came back, and it was just a wonderful feeling to know that someone was out there listening. So I have it programmed in my 9700, my Kenwood, and then also my 5100. So I'm always monitoring when I go to work or when I go to my American Legion meeting in Mechanicsville. So anyway, let me toss it back to you. This is N2JDH.
All right, Andre, I love that story. A group of 4 of you apparently heading in the same direction up 95, being able to carry on maybe a round table net or a little rag chew. That's a lot of fun. Yeah, very good. Thanks for those stories. Next on the list was N4ICT, Bob in Glen Allen. He was in and out. We're at the bottom of the list. Before I go back to the top for our simplex experiment, are there any additional stations wishing to check in? Please call now with your call sign phonetically and your first name.
KQ4RAM, recheck.
KO4KAD, recheck.
Whiskey 4, Hotel Alpha November, Alex.
All right, this is Kilo Oscar 4, Uniform Oscar Romeo, Scott calling the Metro Richmond ARES net. Net control acknowledges Whiskey 4, Hotel Alpha November, Alex. Alex, before we go to you, we've got 2 rechecks, KQ4RAM and KO4KAD. Will, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to make 2 mentions. This is KQ4RAM. The very first time I called out on National Simplex was not long after I got my ticket. So I've got to give some credit to Doug in Verina, N4 HDF, who, by the way, is our new Hanover Club president. He came back to me, so I wanted to throw that out there. And then secondly, my friend, neighbor, and fellow ham, K4 MCD, who lives about less than a mile from me, we use another simplex frequency so we don't tie up National Simplex, 147.570. That's what we use as kind of our neighborhood frequency. So if anyone has that in their scan rotation, you might hear myself and K4 MCD. Anyway, that's it. Back to net control, KQ4 REM.
That's very cool. Doug was your first contact on 14652, and I had not heard the news that he was the new president of the club, and that's mighty nice of y'all letting him be president since he is domiciled in Henrico. Hi. And yes, 147570, that is in my radio's rotation because that is the primary 2-meter simplex frequency for winter heat. Didn't really participate this year, but I did last year. Randy, go ahead with your recheck comment.
Yeah, this is K4KAD. Thanks, Scott, for picking me up again. Yeah, I knew I had forgot to say something. I just wanted to add in there because you brought up propagation. And yeah, man, when 2 meters is open, it's awesome. And I've kind of gotten out of the habit, but particularly when we have a really hot day and then a fairly cool morning, the 2 meter band will just get jumping. And I've made contacts on repeaters as far away as Delaware and North Carolina. So yeah, they, anybody that really likes 2 meters, pay attention to the propagation charts, and man, when it's open, it's awesome. There used to be a fair amount of 2 meter sideband activity too. Haven't been over there in quite a while, but anyways, that's all I got, Scott. Thanks for running it. 7-3 back to net control from KO4KAD.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for those comments, Randy. And yeah, I'm still looking at the vhf.dxview.org website, and it still has a big dark red cloud over the southeast, and that must be exactly what is happening this evening. What do they call it? I think you said it. An inversion or something like that. So I picture it as not being like bouncing off the ionosphere, but rather the signal seems to travel in a kind of in a tunnel between 2 layers. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but yes, Randy's exactly right. A lot of fun. All right, next on our list and last before we go to our simplex check is W4HAN. Good evening, Alex. Please share your comments with the net.
Yeah, this is W4HAN. Here's Alex. Yeah, made a couple contacts on 14652. Which the most recent one I made was pretty interesting how it started. I was on DMR on Talk Route 3100 talking to somebody from across the country, and then he kind of went away, and then some guy he was actually down the road like 3 miles from me, came in on 3100 and said, hey, I'm really close to you. So we switched over to 14652 and had a conversation from about 3 miles away. So that's the closest contact I think I've ever had. But I live close to the interstate here, so occasionally I'll just call out and see what I can get. I've had some pretty decent contacts that have went on pretty long, like 20 minutes from. There's one person that was up in like Ruther Glen, and I got to talk to him all the way down into like south of Ashland, so that was a pretty long QSO, but that's really all I've had on 4652. So this is W4HAN back to net.
All right. Thank you very much for those comments, Alex. You're coming in loud and clear to me. And yes, that station in Ruther Glen, I think that's Bill, KM4TIJ, Superstation. He's got 4 stacked Cushcraft beams on a tower that I think is about 80 feet or 80 feet or so. He's just north of Doswell, always, and I think he runs sometimes 700 watts. So, yeah. Last comment about simplex is that if you monitor it and you hear a station calling from a summit along the Blue Ridge, I would recommend you return that call, because there's a good chance that he or she is using a handheld Yagi or small beam, and their radio will do the heavy lifting, not just for them, but for you too, and you'll be able to connect. It's all about line of sight. Anyway, let's get started with this little test. So what I'd like us all to do is, in just a minute or two, we'll QSY over to 146520, and I will call each station in turn, checking to see if you can copy me, and if I can copy you. And, kind of keep track as we go down the list, keep track of who you're able to hear. And if you don't already know where they are, maybe at the end we can come back over here for a wrap up, and people can exchange their experience. So you may want to turn the squelch down on your radio a little bit. But let's see. Let me see if I'm leaving anything out. We're going to go to 146520. And I will call each station in turn, and then we'll meet back here on the 543 repeater to wrap things up. So if you don't hear anything on 14652, come back here in 5 minutes, because I don't think it'll take us longer than that to return. And just anybody that wants to can tell what their experience was. So this is KO4UOR. I will now QSY to 146520.
as I figured, this is usually what happens when these guys go to simplex. It's not necessarily their fault, because we all know my antennas are indoors, and I think when they run simplex, like Scott said, 15 watts, I'm pretty sure he's far away from me, so I couldn't hear him anyhow. So for me, the test is kind of null and void. I can talk to Phil, ZTO, but he runs 65 watts mobile, and I think he only lives like 4 miles from here, so even that's a stretch for this station. And I wanted to give it a shot anyways. Never know when somebody will call out that's local to me that I haven't talked to yet, but I decided to give it a try tonight. But I guess it's just not going to happen. I mean, I could call out, but I won't be able to hear whoever I'm talking to or whoever answers. I'll never have an idea. I mean, I can run anywhere between 20 and 50 watts now with either radio, but the results are usually the same. Preamplifier is on. If there's a chance, that would be it. And I know it's up there backwards, but the only other thing on the other end of that amplifier is a switch and one LED and some markings, so it's not much more impressive or different than the back side of this thing. So that's the way I installed it. It's not even in the camera shot. Not surprised. Well, if you've gotten this far, I don't have a clamp. The clamps are kind of incomplete on this tripod. So there's a preamp and amplifier on top of the 220 radio. And there are two SWR meters. This one is between the amplifier and the radio, the Kenwood TR9000. And this one up here is attached to the antenna. I don't have enough stretch of an angle here. Way up there. And it's roughly about 5.5 feet up in the air. But that's the current setup for that. Camera phone's not too heavy, so it's not going to force down the shaft on this tripod, it looks like. That's kind of neat. Had one of the thumb screws on this thing kind of break. That was originally with this device when I found it. And it's broke right there on the left side. And it's just a regular hex nut with a plastic thumb screw. And it was missing one of those anyways when I found it. So now I'm down two. It's kind of difficult to just put on just a regular nut without a wing nut, because then you'd have to have a wrench every time you adjust it. And that goes the same for deploying the legs in the bottom. So right now I only have 2 out of 3, 4, yeah, 2 out of 4. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, should be 5.
check to share their experience. If so, please call now with your call sign phonetically.
Delta 6, Foxtrot, Mike. Ron, Romeo, Oscar, November.
All right, Ron, go ahead with your comments.
John, Terry, and your other station, your two other stations, I should have wrote them down. But my location is Panama and Hungary Spring. My grid is Foxtrot Mike 17 Foxtrot Papa. You can use the grid, but you're the only one that has loud too. But I'm only handheld rubber ducky, which I've been using for the last 13 years.
Well, yeah, that was a great contact, Mike. Yeah, we are probably between 2 and 3 miles from one another, so not surprised that we were able to connect that well. Any other stations want to comment on the test? Please call now.
This is A4, Italy, Charlie, Tango.
Kilo 4, Romeo Alpha Alpha, also with a question.
Kilo Oscar 4, Victor Echo Mike.
All right, Net Control acknowledges N4ICT, K4RAA, KO4VEM. Bob, N4ICT, please go ahead.
Thank you, Scott. The only one I was able to hear was you and Randy, but you were pretty good. Now, mind you, I'm just on a VX6R with a Diamond RSH 320 antenna and supposedly 5 watts. But I'm below parking lot level down here in the apartment on the ground floor, right near the FedEx Kinko's on Broad Street in Glen. Those were the only two that I could hear. Over.
Yeah, okay. Well, I would say it seems like you would be uphill from me and probably about 2 miles distant. Thank you for that report. Next, let's go to K4RAA. Dean, please go ahead.
Hey Scott, I was able to pick up a little bit of traffic in the noise, but I couldn't make it out. It was a 0 or a 1 as far as legibility. I was getting some signal. I turned my squelch down as low as I dared. I was getting some signals coming in at a 2 or 3 S meter, but really not able to pick up anything other than their voices in the noise. I was wondering how far east you were reaching. I am pretty deep Verina off of Route 5, getting close to the Charles City line, and I've got a GP3 or GP5 Comet up in the attic. It's about 20 feet up, and I'm running 50 watts, and I'm just trying to figure out how far out you might have heard somebody in regards to the traffic that was coming back to you. This is K4RAA, back to you there, Scott.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Dean. Let's see. Looking at this list tonight, I don't really know. But speaking from longer experience, I have made several contacts with DJ KO4JPR in Lenexa, usually in the morning. Also had a contact with, Kerry, the president of the Williamsburg Club. He was on his way back to Williamsburg from the Richmond airport, so he was east of the airport. And Doug, N4 HDF, I've had simplex contacts with him as well. Those are the only ones I can think of. All right. So I'm thinking that's like 15 miles or so. Next, let's go to David, KO4VEM. Go ahead, David.
Thanks, Scott. This is KO4VEM. Of course, I'm out here in King William County at the far end from Richmond. I'm almost in King and Queen. So I never know where I'm going to pick up on simplex out here. But I heard you fairly clear. There was some noise, but it was easily readable. And KQ4RAM I heard fairly clearly as well. But they're about the only ones I heard. And I've got a J-pole inside the attic here, so I thought that was pretty good to be able to pick you guys up all the way out here.
Yes, indeed, I agree. And that's something else I didn't ever say, and that is I'm running 50 watts on a Yaesu FT991A into a chimney-mounted Diamond X300 dual-band antenna. And that antenna is probably at about 340 feet above sea level. So I like to tell people that when we were shopping for houses 25 years ago, we didn't know we were looking for a house on a hill, but that's what we got, and I'm really grateful. All right, before we close the net, are there any additional comments? There was somebody in the noise. I didn't get your call sign, so I'm going to take a list again of anybody that would like to have a recheck. Please call in.
Well,
KM2GDH.
Whiskey 4 Hotel Alpha November.
All right, we'll wrap it up with Andre and then Alex. M2JDH, go ahead, sir.
KO4UOR, M2GDH. Yeah, I heard you call, but my antennas are actually at the desk height, so I probably wasn't reaching in there. And one of these days I gotta find a way to get my GP95 outside and high enough. But I did hear you in there, but I didn't hear anybody else. And I'm over by the botanical garden here at Lakeside, so I'm probably in a low area.
Yeah, okay. Over by the botanical gardens. Yeah, that's probably about, I'm guessing, 3.5 or 4 miles. Not very far, but like you say, some parts of Lakeside are relatively low. Anyway, thanks for that report. And last but not least, let's go to W4HAN, Alex. Your comment.
It's W4HAN, Alex. Jacket 5. Hearing you about it at 5-7. You're coming in pretty good. There's a little bit of noise, but not much. I'm running 80 watts at a Yaesu FT2980. It's going to a Comet GP3, which has an URP of like somewhere around 250, I believe. So I don't know how else anybody else can hear me, but I'm located in Dongle, about a mile north of East Dominion. So that's about all the information I can provide. But I can hear you and a couple other stations. I can hear 2 other stations well, and everybody else was coming in like either S1 or barely breaking the squelch. But that's all I have. This is W4HAN. Back to you.
All right, thank you for that, Alex. Yeah, you have a great signal coming in from the Doswell area. Really great. And yeah, so thank you all for indulging me with that simplex test. Um, I'm always interested to see who I can reach and who can reach me. And I promise that if I hear you on any simplex calling frequency, I will call you if I can. I will respond if I can. And if you join us for the simplex net on the first or third Fridays, we always, or almost always, I messed it up last week, but we always have a Zoom session going so that you you know I can obviously I can everyone that can hear me, I can usually hear them. But there are a lot of stations that may only be able to hear me or maybe one other station, and it gets really frustrating if that's the case. So if you tune into the Zoom session, you'll hear the same audio that I'm hearing at my station. I just put my laptop microphone right there by my speaker, and makes it more interesting. Anyway, let me go down to the bottom of the script here. I'm not going to go through the list of other area MCOM nets. There are a bunch of them, and most of them are listed on the club websites. So I encourage you to visit your favorite club website. I will now proceed to close the net, but before I do, I would like to thank all those stations who participated and the stations that stood by to give us the time for this net. I would also like to thank the Metropolitan Repeater Association group for the use of this repeater. The Metro Richmond ARES net is now closed, and this repeater is returned to regular amateur radio use. 73, everyone. This is KO4UOR. Clear and monitoring.
Okay, so I have a visual aid here, and this is what I say and what I mean when I say I know where everybody is. The reason why I do that is because of these situations where you could work a simplex net. You can see generally most everybody is in a centralized area. They're in the same centralized area that the MRA covers and more. So it would be easy to make contacts simplex just by looking to see who's out there.
K4RAA, this is W4HAN.
Now, the ARES and the Skywarn, they have a list of people who would participate if there were a net.
Hey, do you mind, since you've got some good juice flowing through your system, and it sounds like you have a decent antenna, do you mind the two of us running that check, see if we can reach each other between Doswell and Verina? Or do you have just a minute for that?
So there's less guessing as who could participate in what area if it's necessary.
146.52, is that good?
Roger that. I'll QSY right now. Thank you. Come back in. If we don't hear anybody, just come back here in 1 minute.
Copy that.
So again, I've created a personal visual aid of a list of people that potentially could participate in simplex or repeater nets in our area. As you can see, there's plenty of people that could participate, but less than half people on this particular map actually participate. So the potential is there visually. That's the reason why I keep that kind of record. If I had a better station with outdoor antennas, I could probably contact any of those people and they would be able to hear me. But, it's my current situation. All the antennas are indoors, so if my receive is limited, likely my transmit is limited too. But again, that's the potential operators in the area that would operate, even in a time of need, let alone a time of leisure. So that's the reason why I say what I say. And just keeping up with folks around here. It's nothing nefarious. It's just trying to make things a little bit more organized, maybe even a little bit more helpful. It's just an idea I've had, and besides writing the records down with contacts on paper, those are contacts I think that I've made with just about everybody, at least on the MRA, maybe other repeaters. So it's just a loose concept with keeping up with the local stations, again, that could participate when the need arises.
W4HAN, K4RAA, back on the repeater.
K4RAA, this is W4HAN.
Roger, I'm back on here. I reached out a few times. I guess I must not be coming through. There was a few times where I see something trying to, my radio trying to pick up something. The little green light would pop on, but nothing more than that. I'm assuming you also tried to transmit.
Yeah, I tried to transmit back. When I first switched over, I turned the structure all the way down. I kind of felt like the noise floor or something like that kind of went up a little bit, and there was a little bit less noise, so your signal was at least doing something. But K04KD came back to me when I was trying to get in contact with you, so I don't know if you'd hear that or not. But it didn't really work, but fixing what if along the way.
Roger that. Hey, I appreciate the help. I figured it was a long shot, but between your antenna and the and how much power you're flowing, I was thinking there was some possibility there. Again, thanks for the help. 73 W4HAN. This is K4RAA. I'll be clear. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, it was nice to see if that would work. K4RAA. This is W4HAN. Say 73, and I'll be clear.
W4HAN, KQ4RAM.
KQ4RAN, this is W4HAN.
Hey, Alex, this is Will. Hey, it was good to meet you last night. I was sitting over there to your right at the club meeting. I think that was you. I was curious and wanted to ask you, you're up in Doswell. Do you ever get on the Ashland Berry Farm repeater?
Yeah, all the time, believe it or not. I'm usually monitoring it, but I rarely hear anybody on it. But usually monitor it. I'll occasionally call out, but usually nobody comes back. There's not a whole lot of activity, but yeah, I usually listen to it.
Yeah, roger that. It's in my scan rotation also. I'm curious, I don't know if I'd be able to hit it tonight. Sometimes it's hit or miss for me. I'm in eastern Hanover County, and I have a J-pole that's up about 27 feet. I'm on a 2980 like you are, pushing 80 watts. Maybe we could QSY over there real quick.
Yeah, that we can do that QSY to the Berry Farm repeater. I'm pretty sure you can hit it from eastern Hanover. Don't really know the range of it, but yeah, let's QSY that to Berry Farm.
Roger that. QSY over to Ashland Berry Farm repeater. This is KQ4REM. Clear.
Never heard of that repeater. Maybe I should do some more research. Well, if you've certainly gotten this far, I appreciate it. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. I try to be quiet during the nets as much as I can while I'm not participating, at least on the channel. That way you can hear everything that's necessary, and I just kind of keep quiet. So hope you enjoy this as much as I do. I know they get long and boring sometimes, and there's not a whole lot of exciting screaming and yelling going on. That's just not my thing, and I don't want to interrupt the content in that way. 7-3 guys, William here, K4ARX. You're watching the American Radio X-Ray.